Hello everybody, my name is Jamal Malik, and in this video, we're going to talk about forecast management. As we've mentioned before on some of our other videos, this is the fifth video we're developing along the lines of what it takes to set up effective and efficient sales engines. So if you hadn't had a chance already to watch those other videos, I highly suggest you do, because a lot of the concepts we covered in those videos we'll actually be using today. So let's always start with some concepts and some definitions. So in a nutshell, forecast management or forecast accuracy is directly tied to long-term business predictability and sustainability. Now, the act of forecasting is actually fairly simple. And the way it works is, let's just say we are at the beginning of a quarter. We are going to predict or call what we think or how we're going to land in terms of revenue at the end of the quarter. We do this by understanding what our pipeline is, what sales stages we are within the opportunities within that pipeline, and then gauging our ability to move those opportunities through the customer's buying process, and obviously adding in close rates and effectively determining, along with run rates, which is what business comes into your organization in an unmanaged way, to understand where you're going to land. Now, I know I said a lot, but frankly, it's not as involved as you may think, although there are certain elements that you need to kind of stay top of mind and just kind of think through as you're performing this process, okay? Now, as I mentioned, the approach to measuring forecast accuracy is effectively taking the number at the beginning of the quarter and then understanding where you actually landed in terms of revenue for the end of the quarter. But the goal is always try to be as close to the pin as possible. Not too much over, not too much under, but as close as possible. And the basic rule of thumb is within 5 points. Later on in the video, we'll talk about what it means when you're greater than 5 points or you achieve other thresholds like maybe 20% or even 1%. But albeit to say within 5 points is generally accepted as the goal for driving towards greater forecast accuracy. Okay. Now, as I mentioned earlier, forecast accuracy is one of the best ways to determine the health of an organization and effectively its ability to drive long-term sustainability. Okay. Now, whether you are a large enterprise, a mid-market company, or even a small business, this is a good business practice. Okay, because at the end of the day, it's the measure that demonstrates that the organization can achieve its revenue goals despite changes in industry or business trends, competition, or frankly, any other disruptions that might arise through the course of the year. Okay. Another benefit of measuring forecast accuracy is that it's actually one of the measures that has a direct correlation to improving business valuation. The reason being is because it increases the confidence of investors that you will in fact reach your revenue goals. Okay. Additionally, as a business owner, it helps you understand your cash flow, determine the impacts of investments, both in terms of sales and marketing. And then, lastly, it also gives you a pretty good measure or gauge in terms of how effective or efficient your sales engine actually is. Now, let's say that we have our forecast accuracy measures in place. There's a second one that I want to just quickly touch on, which is also important to track. So revenue forecast accuracy, as I mentioned earlier, is the revenue amount that we think we're going to achieve at the end of the quarter and in figuring out how close we were with actual revenue. The second concept is deal-based forecast accuracy. Now, deal-based forecast accuracy is a little bit different in that what you're doing is you're saying, here are the number of opportunities or deals that I think I'm going to close at the beginning of the quarter, and then measuring that with the actual number of deals. Now you may ask yourself, like, why does it matter? If I have good revenue forecast accuracy, why do I need to measure deal-based forecast accuracy? Well, the reason being is because when you put those two measures together, that gives you an incredible amount of insight in terms of what's actually happening within your sales business. So let's run water through this and kind of talk through it a little bit more. So revenue forecast accuracy can actually be a little bit misleading in that you can set a goal, a revenue goal at the beginning of the quarter, and even achieve that goal at the end of the quarter. However, if you're not sure how it occurred, there's a lot of things that can happen that can actually help you get good revenue forecast accuracy, but it's still probably not best for the business. And I'll just share a quick example. So one example is during the course of the quarter, what actually happened is, let's say you lost a number of deals, you had some bluebirds come in, so effectively deals that you didn't really manage or customers brought to the table. And through that entire quarter, it turns out that a majority of the deals that you were working on maybe didn't close, and you had maybe a large bluebird deal come in. And if you add all that together, it looks like, hey, we came pretty close to the pin. And obviously, I'm not including run rate or management discretion into this conversation, just to kind of keep things a little simple. Now, you may say to yourself, hey, well, I achieved my revenue number. Why should I care how I got there? Well, you got there not because of your own volition or efforts. You got there because, frankly, you got lucky. Statistically speaking, what happened in this quarter, the way it happened, if you didn't close the deals, a lot of bluebirds, it probably won't happen again the next quarter or the quarter after that. So measuring deal-based forecast accuracy along with revenue forecast accuracy is the best way for you to gauge how effective your organization is, and helps you troubleshoot the business as well and make further adjustments and refinements to get those numbers as close to the pin as possible. Okay, so we've covered a lot of concepts. We talked about how. Now the next thing is talking about effectively what it takes to basically improve it. And there's one aspect to this, and it's how disciplined your sales organization is as it relates to following the sales process. What we found effectively is that the better and the more rigor that organizations place around their opportunities and the stages that they are in the customer's buying process gives insight to perform forecast management and drive greater forecast accuracy in the best possible way. So basically, if you know where you are in terms of the customer's buying process, you're in the late stages of the opportunity, you can more confidently forecast for the end of the quarter, knowing that, again, based on your win rates, based on the pipeline coverage goals you have, that you'll be able to actually achieve that goal. At the end of the day, what it really is measuring is how much rigor and discipline you're driving all up within your sales organization. Okay. Now, as I mentioned before, the last piece I'll touch on is what to do once you understand where you are in terms of measures. If you begin measuring forecast accuracy and you're above 20%, obviously it's not a good sign. It means that revenue is coming in high in some places or maybe low in other parts of the quarter. You need to either determine what your targets are for that quarter. Perhaps there's some issues with seasonality you're not taking into account as it relates to setting up your quarterly targets. But if that's not it, keep an eye on basic sales hygiene and rigor as it relates to, as I mentioned, your sales process. Also look at your pipeline coverage goals and your win rates. If you are not driving enough pipeline based on your close rates, you'll come in under. If you're coming over consistently, make sure that you're taking into account things like run rate and bluebirds. It's an obvious and basic part of your business. It should take into account as you're building your forecast for future quarters, half of the years, or even the full year for that matter. All right, so this has been a quick video talking about forecast management and forecast accuracy as part of our video series in building effective and efficient sales engines. Thanks for watching, and happy hunting.